Continue with chapter number 11 from your economics book of grade 11, and the name of the chapter is the structural changes in the Indian economy after liberalization. And today we are going to start from the privatization part, and already the liberalization part we have completed. And in this privatization part we will first understand what is the meaning of privatization. So privatization basically implies a process which leads to transformation of ownership from public sector enterprises from the government to the private sector. That means the sectors are changing from the public sector, it is going to the private sector. That means the owners are changing from the government hands, now it is going to some individual person or maybe to a group of few. Okay, this is called privatization. So it is having some features, we need to understand the features. And basically, as we will say that as because of this privatization got introduced in India after this 1991, we are finding that there are lots of changes, and we can say a new economic policy got formed in India, and there are 6 major principles on which this reform took place, this privatization took place. Policy of de-reservation. The Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956. Okay, this is a policy which was followed in 1956, had reserved 17 industries for the public sector. The industrial policy of 1991 reduced the number of such industries to 8. That means you can understand that 17 industries were there, out of which in 1991 after privatization only 8 companies remained in the hand of the government, rest were privatized. Okay, subsequently the number of industries reserved exclusively from the public sector has reduced to 3. Now they are saying, namely there are 3. One is the atomic energy, next is the specific minerals, and railways. All these are in the hands of public sector. Now railways is in 2021, that is another question mark, that whether it is going to remain in the hands of, because already it have been declared that it will be privatized, right? Point number 2, policy towards sick public sector undertakings. That means sick public means for many years we will find that years after years this sector is having, or these farms are having loss. That's why they're calling it sick public sector. Sick enterprises are those enterprises which have been incurring heavy loss years after years. In 1992, 65 cases of central public sector enterprises, CPSEs, were referred to the BIFR. What is BIFR? That is the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. This is a board which was set up by the government in 1987. They have brought about 65 such cases. Those you can say 65 industries or sectors which were having loss after loss for many years. The government established the Board of Reconstruction of the Public Sector Enterprises in December 2004. Okay, and to advise the government on moderating or a revival or reconstruction of this sick and loose making public sector enterprises. The number of sick these enterprises have came down to 105 in 2003, and in 2016 it came down to 40. Okay, now the third point, policy of Navratnas and Mini Ratnas. So as the government introduced the Navratna scheme in 1997 to identify this kind of cases like the central public sector enterprises that had comparative advantages and support them in the derive and became global gainers. That means the company which were having loss years after years, the government made enough effort have supported them, and now they were the leading companies. So these are the Navratnas, because at the initially they were having 9 such companies. For that they give this name Navratnas, and later on few more got added on, and around we are having first it got added on, it became 12, and later on few more got added on and it became 21. So they are calling mini Ratnas. Okay, first 9 was added, for it, that why they give this title Navratna. Next, Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. So the main objective of MOU is to grant autonomy to the public sector enterprises by reducing the quantity of control and increasing the quantity of accountability of management. So what kind of activity this MOU was trying to do? The government evaluates the performances of the public sector enterprises through performance or performing or evaluating based on the comparison between the actual achievement and the annual target of the government. So what was the target of the, in every 5-year plan we will find that every sector is behind a target. They are set to fulfill that target, but they are not actually, sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't succeed. So what is the actual performance that is getting calculated by the government, and the public sector enterprises entering into MOU with the government has given rating as per their performance. Rating on the 5-point scale. Okay, excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, this kind of ranking is given. So out of these 198 public sector enterprises which signed MOU during 2017 and 2018, 49 were rated excellent, 54 very good, 40 good, 31 fair, and 24 were regarded as poor. So volunteer retirement scheme, VRS. As because with the increasing population, we are finding that few of the industries of the government was overpopulated with the laborers. They were having excess laborers. So they launched a volunteer retirement scheme, VRS. Under this scheme, if anybody before the time of leaving the job, if they resigned from their job, they were given certain compensation. Directly they were paid certain amount of money. This is called as the volunteer retirement. Volunteer because they are doing it by themselves. Volunteer retirement scheme. About 6.28 lakh employees had opted for volunteer retirement because at a time they get the money, so they easily leave the job. Scheme from 1988 till March 2019. In a disinvestment policy. Disinvestment policy here means that once the government have invested in those industries, but again they are taking away their investment and saying that we don't want to remain in the partnership with you anymore, with those kind of companies. This happens basically in the joint sectors. Okay, so disinvestment means selling of the investment. In the context of public enterprises, the policy of disinvestment refers to selling of government equity, that means shares, in the public sector units in the market. Like now we can find this is being done in the market with LIC. Okay, LIC is also going through this kind of phase now. So the actual realization from the disinvestment program has been much below the target. So as the government targeted that with the disinvestment and they will sell their share in the market, so they will earn more profit, that target was not achieved. Okay, after the disinvestment you can say in 2010, 2011, 2019 and 20, we are about to having a target now also, within a target, certain amount of target. Let us see can they achieve this year or not. Equities of the public sector enterprises have been sold at very low price. That means the shares which are being sold in the market, it is with very low price getting sold. Funds realized Funds released through disinvestment have not been used appropriately. So the government is not able to invest those money in a proper way. The disinvestment exercise has lacked maturity and transparency. So the money which the government got, it is lacking transparency. That means where it is utilized, by whom it is utilized, it is not getting clarified to the common people. Now, what is the meaning of globalization? That means the market is opening to the entire world. Okay, globalization is the process of integrating the economy of a country with other economies of the world through trade, capital flow, and technology. Again, this is going to have some positive effect, some negative effect. Okay, what are the features of globalization policy? Exchange rate reforms. This is a reform which took place after this 1991. Okay, the most important measures for integrating Indian economy with the global economy was the change over from the fixed exchange rate. Before it was having a fixed exchange rate, and now the exchange rate is determined by the market determinants. Flexible exchange rate system. Okay, the convertibility of Indian rupee on trade account was achieved in August 1994. This policy is also called partial convertibility because it covers current account. Current account means the account holders, those who are in the business purpose, they make this kind of account. This is called the current account transactions only, and not capital account. Capital account means they're talking about the savings account transactions. Those are not being considered here. Savings account not being considered, whereas the business account, on the per day business, we will find that the exchange rate is increasing or decreasing. Next, number 2, import liberalization. So India is committed to reduce restrictions on the foreign trade as a member of the World Trade Organization, WTO. What are the terms and policies of WTO? The system of import licensing has been dismantled, means it have got changed, or you can say got less importance now. It got less important. Import license is getting less importance now, but it is there. Okay, it is not totally diminished, it is there, but it is getting less importance. Next is quantitative restrictions on imports have been almost totally abolished. So how much quantity of other country can bring the material and sell it in our country? Before there was a restriction, and now we are finding there is no such restriction. They have to pay minimum amount of you can say excise duty, and they can bring it in India and sell it here. Next, the tariff rates, import duties or the excise duties have been reduced sharply. Before 1991 or during the 1991, we will find there were 57%. Okay, now slowly it got reduced, and now we are having, the average tariffs is now less than one tenth of the 57%. So you can understand that the tariff rates have also decreased. Next is foreign direct investments, or you can say FDI. FDI, an important derived of economic growth. It leads to increase in productivity and employment. FDI is expected to add to the domestic investment. These are the foreign investments which the foreign countries are investing in our country. So this is again increasing our domestic input, or we can say gross national investment. It is increasing our investment, and that will get added in our national income. Next, the India government, that means our government, launched Make in India program in 2014 with the objective of making India a global hub of manufacturing new process and innovations, new infrastructures, and new mindset. So India is trying to invite the foreign investors in India, that you can come up here, sell your products, even set up your industries here and sell the products. Okay, India is a vast country with a large population. You will get a huge market here. So this is an invitation to the people with globalization. And as they will come and start settling here, the economic condition of the country will increase because the foreign investment is coming here. Foreign technology, with a view of encourage technological development in Indian industries. Free flow of technology is allowed by the government. So here we can understand, as the other countries are coming and setting up their own factories here, we will get to know about the different new technologies, about the advancement of the technologies, and Indian you can say merchants can also use, Indian industries can also use those kind of machineries. Effects of globalization on Indian industry. What kind of effect? Inflow of multinational corporations, MNCs. MNCs of different countries came into existence in India with a huge rate after the globalization, and a hub amount of FDI, a huge amount of FDI coming in the Indian industries has boosted Indian economy. Okay, next is the emergence, or we can find that the increase in the IT and BPO sector have increased. Okay, in other countries, particularly like USA, Europe, all those companies have also set up here, and we are finding that the IT sectors and BPO got increased. Okay, next the third is availability of advanced technologies. Just now we came across this point that as the MNCs are coming and setting up here with the advanced technologies, Indians are also being able to enjoy these advanced technologies. Number 4, providing employment to skilled manpower. Okay, setting up an industry by the foreign companies has helped to prove employment to many, have provided employment to many people in the country, and they have become skilled also, and they have to undergo some kind of training. So everybody is getting skilled as they are using the modern technologies. Setting up special economic zones, SEZ have been set up by the government to attract foreign companies. Okay, creation of SEZ has enhanced the growth of industries. Number 6, Indian cooperative sector emerging as global player. That means some of the leading Indian industries like the Tatas, the Reliance have gone globally by undertaking the investment abroad. As the foreign investors are coming to India, from India also we are finding that few companies are going abroad and it is settling there. They are also doing their business abroad. Now there are few negative effects also of this globalization on India. Okay, first of all, competition from foreign companies. As the foreign companies came and started setting up their companies here or started selling their products here, our Indian merchants or the Indian industries lost with their MNCs. They could not win because the MNCs started producing or giving the consumers better opportunity, or you can say better options with a cheap rate. With a very cheap rate, they started giving a far better quality than the Indian producers. So the consumers in the country preferred to buy foreign goods in view of their better quality. This has reduced the profit levels of the Indian companies. Number 2, loss in jobs in some areas. As because with the globalization we are finding that the new technologies are coming into existence, we are finding that so many people, or you can say so many employees are not needed. As because the new technologies, they are operated by few persons only and the entire production process is completed. So we will find that it is bringing unemployment also. Okay, takeovers of domestic companies. Foreign stakeholders have increased their holdings on the Indian companies. That means they are investing in the Indian companies. So we can say that the domestic companies are getting takeovered by the foreign investors. Change in the Indian economy, higher growth rates. If we compare the growth rate of the real GDP after 1990 or 1991. Before it was 5%, it was increasing by 5%, now it is increasing by 10%, and annually we can say it is increasing by 7.5%. So the growth rate, the GDP, have started increasing. Uneven spread of liberalization. Inequalities in income and wealth have widened during the period of liberalization, while the share of high income earners increased and the share of the poor people started decreasing or fell. So here they are saying that if we try to say with the help of liberalization, we are finding that the rich people are getting much more income and the poor people started becoming more poor. Other than that, there are a few more points like change in the composition of national income. Before, the Indian national income was calculated on the basis of maximum of the GDP was contributed, or you can say national income was contributed from the agriculture sector. Okay, if we now check, it is a change in the composition of national income. The share of the agriculture and the allied sector in the national income decreased. The share of the industrial sector, on the other hand, showed a steady increase. That means little bit of increase from the industrial sector. Importantly, the share of the tertiary or the service sector increased significantly. Okay, it was before it was 42% and now it became 54%. 54% of the national income is a contribution from the tertiary sector. Savings and investment performance. So post reform means before this reform was introduced, people used to not save much and not invest much. As people became aware, slowly and steadily they became aware about the facts, about the changes. In 1990-1991, we are finding that the investment have also increased. The people have started investing, they have started making savings and they have started investing those monies. Okay, so we can find there is a change in GDP once again. So these are the points which you needed to understand. These are the few points which are in favor and in against globalization. Hopefully you understood. Thank you.